Sharma's YouTube channel. Let's get into another subject I'm talking about. Miami Hurricanes, man, take it back 35 years ago, 1991. That's the year the Hurricanes won their fourth national championship. And now the Hurricanes were the team in the 80s. Subsequent to if you're a Hurricane fan or aficionado of the Hurricanes and their history, 83, 87, 89. Those are 3 years they won the national championship. And they were a dominant team. Countless first round picks. You know, had a Hudson Trophy winner in Vinny Testaverde in '86. You had a lot going on at the U at the time. They were a team that you love to hate. They swagger everything that they were doing. Um, Three different head coaches won the national championship during the '80s. We had Howard Schnellberger to Jimmy Johnson to Dennis Erickson, who was the coach at the time. He had obviously, no question about it. He coached Jimmy Johnson's players. But he's the guy that was the general that led him in the right direction. And you got to give credit to Dennis Erickson because when you look at Dennis Erickson, he's an innovator of the highest order. Probably don't get enough credit for how innovative he was with the one back offensive system. So I think that's the thing about it. He brought that terminology to the Hurricanes and they flourished under that system, the one back offense. He brought that to Miami. It was revolutionary. You know, he gained a lot of, success during his tenure at New York, man, because he had so many guys that could, get out in space, had so much speed. And you look at that team, in '89, obviously they had, Craig Erickson, Stephen McGuire and Leonard Connolly and receivers like Randall Hill and Dale Dawkins and guys like that. Wesley Carroll, tight end like Ron Szynski and Randy Bethel. They were just loaded. Now they won in '89. They went 11-1. They lost to Florida State, but they beat Notre Dame and won the national championship against Alabama in Sugar Bowl 33-25. 1990 they fall short. They lose a couple of games, but their offense still was explosive. Lamar Thomas came to his own as a sophomore. You had Randall Hill. You had Ross Szynski, obviously Bethel, Randy Bethel, and you had obviously Leonard Connolly and Steve McGuire in the backfield. And Craig Erickson throwing that ball. So they were very, very successful offensively. They just fell short that year. But the '91 year, that's when everything came into play. They were focused. They were hungry to win another national championship. They was able to do it. Thanks for the 21 people tuning in. Thanks for hitting the like button. Subscribe to the channel. They were on a mission. And that first game they had was against Arkansas, and I remember this game because it was on ABC. It was at high noon, and Gino Torretta threw a 99-yard touchdown to Horace Copeland. Another thing about the Hurricanes in '91, they had a new look. They started wearing black cleats, something that you didn't see from the Hurricanes. Because prior to that, before that, they were wearing white shoes, white cleats. So they wore black cleats. It was like a fashion statement in a sense. Something that when it comes to seeing the footwear of the Hurricanes wearing that kind of footwear, black cleats. So I think that was something that was made them an interesting team to look at for as their explosive offense, intimidating defense. But this team dominated, man. They dominated that game. They won that game 31-3 against Arkansas at Arkansas. And but the game that really tested them was against Houston because David Klingler, he was a big hot shot quarterback, rightly so. They were putting up a lot of points. They had a guy named Andre Wade who won the Heisman a couple years before that. And they were supposed to do some things against Miami. And it was on Thursday night. They lost 40-10. So Miami was just dominating, man. Just dominating the game. Other game that stood out was the Penn State game at the Orange Bowl, and they won 26-20, I believe. Big time players everywhere. Lamar Thomas scored another long touchdown pass. Horace Copeland scored another long touchdown pass. I believe Kevin Williams scored on a long punt return. He went like 91 yards, something like that. So, and the thing about that game, I remember it well. It was interrupted by the Clarence Williams Anita Hill case. That was a big deal at the time, and it was interrupted by that because that was on Capitol Hill, the trial. Clarence with no sexual harassment case. And that was something that was a big deal at the time. When you talk about that year and that game, um, that was just big time a football game. It was like sweet revenge because they had lost to Penn State in the '87 Fiesta Bowl, and that was like sweet revenge in a sense to play them. And that was a great win for them, sweet win, and that was a great game by the Hurricanes. Yeah, they beat Arkansas 31-3, Houston 40-10, Penn State 26-20. These are standout games during that time, going against ranked opponents because now Arkansas wasn't ranked. Houston was ranked number 10. Penn State was ranked number 9. Might obviously highly ranked in the top 3. So the toughest game after that obviously was November 16th, just coming November, the 35th anniversary of that. Thanks for 2 people liking the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. And then we look at, Florida State, Miami, man. It gets no better than that. Number 1 versus number 2. I mean, this is when the rivalry was at its best, man, at its absolute peak, because you saw so many great players on both sides of the ball, great speed. Casey Weldon on the other side of the football. With Florida State, you had Amber Lee, Edgar Bennett, just talented players, talented receivers on that other side of that football. Marvin Jones, Kirk Carruthers, obviously Terrell Buckley. You know what I'm saying? That team was loaded. Now see right here, again, back to the Penn State Miami game on October 12th. That was interrupted because of the Clarence Thomas. I said Clarence Williams, my apologies, Clarence Thomas. He was a United States Supreme nominee, Clarence Thomas. He was testifying because of the Anita Hill case, sexual harassment. So I apologize for that. It wasn't Clarence Williams, Clarence Thomas. So fans was watching the game outside Florida, missed the 2 scores because the network switched to Clarence Thomas testifying, because the Anita Hill situation that he was dealing with at the time. And that's why they switched the game. Because if he wasn't living in Florida, you would end up not able to see that, at the time. So that's what he was doing, unfortunately, with Anita Hill. Because again, that was a big story at the time. Yeah, Anita Hill. About the sexual harassment situation. That's what that was. That's what that was about in regards to that. That was a big deal at the time. So I remember that. The Florida State Miami game, and then the thing about it, number 1 versus number 2 is that game meant everything. You know what I'm saying? Like Florida State Miami, that game, and I remember it vividly. Like those games back then, when I was a kid, man, I know I'm getting showing my age. That was played at 12 noon. Number 1 versus 2. Imagine that being today. That would probably be on prime time. But back then, those games started 12 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. Eastern Standard Time. Keith Jackson, Bob Greasy did the game. Great game. Hard-hitting game. Wide right. That's what this game was known for. Jerry Thomas missed the 34-yard field goal. It was at the time the 26th meeting between 1 and 2 in the AP poll era. And only the second between top-ranked teams from the same state. Gotta go back to 1968, Purdue versus Notre Dame. You know what I'm saying? Back in like 68, Miami won 17-16. And the thing about those games is that Florida State always had leads against Miami in the 4th quarter. They were up 16-7. I think the biggest play in that game, not the biggest play, but the biggest points was caused was hitting that field goal to make it 16-10 to keep Miami in the game. Then that final drive, one of the great moments in that game was Coleman Bell. He made a great catch down the sideline, just a huge catch, huge grab on Coleman Bell. It was on 2nd down, 16. He made that catch. He completed a 22-yard pass to Coleman Bell that brought the Hurricanes to 41-yard line because it was now 16-10. Because was to hit the field goal that was 45 yards. That was huge. That wasn't easy. And Carlos Woods is made the best kicker ever at Miami football history. Was Miami Hurricanes. And then, McGuire was doing his thing. He ran for 142 yards, brought Miami inside the red zone. But the biggest play of that game was on 4th down and 6, where Terrell found Horace Copeland. His only reception of the game, but it was huge because it gave him a first down inside the 3 yard line of Florida State. And then Larry Jones, a true freshman, I think he was a freshman at the time, scored a touchdown from 1 yard out to make it 17-16. But Florida State came right back. Again, they had great high power offense, a lot of weapons at around Casey Weldon. So they wasn't gonna go down. Now the biggest play of that drive, they got it to the 46 yard line, Miami. Edgar Bennett bullied his way 7 yards to convert 4th and 1. Then the pass interference call, he threw it, a pass, and Ryan McNeil was covering it. The receiver, I think it was Terrell, and he did, get in the way. It was pass interference, so they had it at the 18 yard line. So this is Florida State. They're gonna win this game. They're gonna handle their business. They could have scored on the offense, but they decided to go for the field goal. They were out timeouts. They ran on 1st down, 1 yard to the left side. Out timeouts. Weldon spikes the ball, 2nd down, big 3rd and 9 with 29 seconds to go. Weldon lost his shoe in the previous play. Here comes Jerry Thomas, was 3 for 3 all day. So he kicks it, misses to the right, and Keith Jackson did a great job with the penalty. With the call. He said the snap is up, miss it to the right. Miami players all over the field, they're going to get penalized for it, but so what? I'm sure that is their attitude and all that. And the thing about that field goal, the NCAA prior to the 91 season narrowed the width of the uprights by 4 feet and 10 inches. So that led to Thomas' kick missing by the length of the football. And Miami won the game 17-16, ended up winning that championship for the 4th time, in a 8-year span, something like that. They stayed number 1, and obviously shared that championship with the Washington Huskies. May do something on them soon, because they deserve credit, man. They won that championship too. They shared it with the Hurricanes and stuff like that. So they was able to get to the Orange Bowl and play Nebraska, won 22-0. Absolute domination. Amazing. It's all about the defense. Not much on the offense. Larry Jones, fullback, did his thing. They was able to dominate the game, handle their business, no problem. It was just complete domination by Larry Brown. How he ran the ball. Matter of fact, he was I think he was the MVP. Yeah, he was the MVP of the Orange Bowl that year. Scored a 1 yard touchdown. See how many yards he had. So up there, we can't find that. Let's see. Miami ran for only 182 yards. Yeah. So I don't know how many yards he had, but he won an MVP. So stuff like that, man. It was just a great time for the Hurricanes to win the national championship. It was their year 35 years ago. That's when Miami was at the peak of his power. They're trying to get back to that. Last season, obviously 2025, they made it to the national championship game, playing in the Orange Bowl at their stadium, but unfortunately they lost to a better team in Indiana Users, led by Fernando Mendoza. They lost, but now Miami's trying to get back to that, being in championship games year in, year out, being a competitor year in, year out. Look at Mary Cristobal, what he's doing. He's doing his thing. He's making it happen. So, you're a Hurricane fan, if you're a certain age, 40 plus or up, the Hurricanes was great back then, how dominant they were, and now they're back to that. Now we're going to see what they do this year, with this team. But I just want to do a retrospective on the 35th anniversary team of the 91 Hurricanes that won the national championship, beat Nebraska 22-0, 4 national championships in that span from 83 to 91. 4 and 8 years, you want to say 4 and 9 years, but that was when Miami was Alabama. They were Alabama before Alabama, as far as like the Nick Saban years and how they was winning that championship. They were dominating college football. So before I go out, I'm gonna talk about Dennis Erickson and his contribution to the game. Those who don't know how great Dennis Erickson was, he was a great coach in terms of the one back offensive system that he brought to Miami. And those who don't know what the one back offensive system is, it's a revolutionary wide open scheme that serves as a precursor to modern college and NFL spread offenses. So by utilizing 4 or 5 receivers who are eligible, often with one running back and H back, Erickson isolated defenders in space, forcing linebackers into unfavorable man-to-man coverage situations. That's what made him an innovator in that way. And then when you look at the philosophy mismatches, number one, instead of keeping 2 running backs in the backfield to help block, the offense spread the field horizontally. If the defense stayed in traditional base formation like a 4-3 defense, linebackers were frequently forced to cover shifty slot receivers or quick running backs out on routes. Saying motion and pre-snap reads, Erickson was able to use heavy pre-snap motion to diagnose defensive coverages. The quarterback would determine exactly who was covering whom, then use motion to manipulate the defense, clearing space for the offense's top playmakers in isolated one-on-one routes. So the one-back set, the formation typically consists of running back, the lone setback, 5 yards behind the quarterback, paired with multiple wide receivers and a flex tight end. So Dennis Erickson developed and refined the system while he was head coaching at San Jose State in Idaho, University of Idaho. He gained the national prominence, obviously, what he did at the University of Miami. His I-obtained single-back spread systems laid the foundation strategically for the air raid and spread this run concepts that were utilized by coaches across all levels of football. So you look at Dennis Erickson, man, he's a pioneer. He's an innovator. He revolutionized college football. We talk about Bill Rawls, you talk about, Don Coryell, some guys, Sid Gilman, as far as the passing game aspect. But when you talk about Dennis Erickson, he gotta be included. He's one of the all-time greats as far as what he did with that one-back offensive system, how successful it was. Obviously, he won 2 national championships with the Hurricanes, with that kind of personality they had. You know what I'm saying? And again, they had Gino Torretta, Stephen McGuire. In the backfield, you had wide receivers, Rufus Posse, led by Lamar Thomas, Horace Copeland, Kevin Williams, Darryl Spencer. Then you had Coleman Bell, who was doing his thing. You know what I'm saying? This team was offensively explosive, had so many weapons at their disposal, and a great offensive line that can run the football. So I think from that standpoint, that was a great offensive team. So that's basically it, man. I'm gonna close it out, man. Hit the like button. I see 3 people hit the like button. Thank you so much. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Be back for another live feed at 6 o'clock. So until then, talk to you soon.